Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Yolanda Melody. Today I want to talk about a really important topic, which is the way that we speak to ourselves on a day-to-day basis, particularly negative self-talk. I believe that most people are walking around dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, and my question is, why? Do you ever stop and wonder, is it actually natural for us to constantly berate ourselves or not believe in ourselves, see ourselves as having low worth? Or are these beliefs coming from external things? Could it be that we're actually being programmed to hate ourselves? If you think about it, even from an early age, watching cartoons, we've been perpetually shown characters that have self-esteem issues. They're always doubting themselves. Even last night I was thinking about a film that I watched when I was little, the Goofy movie. And the main character, Max, virtually hated himself. And I had this thought, like, what would we all be like if we were never subjected to narratives like this? You can think of any film that you liked when you were little, and you'll probably find that the main character, or most of the characters, apart from the evil ones, didn't believe in themselves. And yet the main character is the star of the show. Psychologically, the main character is always supposed to be the most liked character, the one that we're told we should aspire to be like. I don't really think people realise just how much this has moulded our reality. I recently went through something, I suppose you could say it was a dark night of the soul. If you've been following along with my videos, you'll know that this year I've been so focused on raising my vibration and positive thinking, but all of a sudden I had this dark cloud that just came over me. And it began with negative self-talk. And the lesson it taught me was that the way that you see yourself, your self-concept, completely changes everything. It changes your perception of literally everything in your life. If you think about it, if someone wanted to attack you verbally, if they really wanted to hurt you, they would always go for attacking something that is personal to you. They'd seek to destroy your perception of yourself and make you think low of yourself, right? Everybody knows intuitively that if you want to attack someone, that is the fastest way to do it. Now, so many people are doing that to themselves. If you look at plants, if you know anything about looking after plants, plants respond positively to positive vibrations. If you were looking after a load of plants and you continuously spoke horrible words to the plants, or played horrific music, or had a negative environment, the plants will struggle to grow. Sometimes they'll just die. Some people might not believe me here, and that's fine. You can find out for yourself in the future that this is true. I used to go to this plant nursery, and every single time I went in, they'd be playing classical music. Now, in my personal opinion, classical music is one of the purest forms of music. It is extremely high vibrational, and someone at that plant centre knew that playing that music to the plants will help them grow quicker and to be prosperous. We've all heard about the water experiment, where when you speak into water, the water responds differently depending on whether you're speaking negatively or positively to that water. Now, other than the fact that our body is actually, I think some people say it's 70% water, other than that fact, just hearing those things, it's pretty evident that our body responds to the way that we speak to it. And I can also tell you from experience, I have experienced both polar extremes of loving who I am and feeling so great about myself. And then on the flip side, at other periods in my life, I've struggled hugely with serious self-doubt. I suppose you could call it self-hatred. And when I've been in that low vibration, my body doesn't respond well to it at all. Everything seems to go wrong. So again, why do we do it to ourselves? Why do so many of us fall into the trap of doing this? Well, I believe that somehow, somewhere deep within, we believe that if we speak negatively to ourselves, it will kick us into gear and motivate us to change the things we don't like about ourselves. And we don't want to let go of that because we think that if we just speak nicely to ourselves, if we quote unquote love ourselves, we'll completely lose all motivation and will stop progressing altogether. This is something that I hung on to for the longest time, and it's took me up until very recently to realise that this is a complete lie. And actually the opposite is true. If you're a person that believes at all in the law of attraction, you know that your thoughts create your reality. So say for example you tell yourself that you're not confident, that you're not good at public speaking. Because your thoughts reflect your reality, your body will respond to what you're telling it. If you're telling it you can't do public speaking and that you get really nervous, instantly that happens. You start to falter, you start to stumble on your words and struggle. Your body will respond with anxiety. It all begins with the mind. So in that scenario, by telling yourself that you can't do public speaking, that's not helping you improve. It's keeping you stuck. If you were to tell yourself, I'm fantastic at public speaking, I always know the correct thing to say, I know how to captivate an audience. If you tell yourself that, suddenly a shift happens. And those are self-loving thoughts. Those are positive thoughts about yourself. And oddly, they've caused you to grow. So the concept that self-love and self-improvement are on opposite ends of the scale and they don't work hand in hand, that again is a complete lie. And I'm trying not to go on a rant about the media because I know it's coming. How many times have you watched a film or a TV show where there's some woman that is speaking negatively to herself in her head and it's perpetual negative things like, come on, get up, stop being lazy, and she's like micromanaging herself. I recently decided to watch this series called Physical, and I had to turn it off after the first 10 minutes because the main character, yet again, had this inner dialogue where she was saying all of these horrible things to herself. And it put me off massively because I know that this is something that so many of us deal with, but watching things like this perpetuates the problem. It reaffirms to you that this is a normal thing, this is a normal experience to constantly say vile things to yourself in your head 24/7. I know that they say art reflects life, but also life reflects art. And things like this are shown so much in the media. It's been drilled into us that if you're on a self-improvement journey, you have to kick yourself into gear, you have to be mean to yourself, almost become some kind of military coach inside of your mind. It's wrong. It's the wrong way to do it. You know how I know? Because again, I've experienced both polar opposites repeatedly. Recently, I experienced both polar opposites in the space of a month. I wanted to improve a few things about myself, and out of nowhere, I just started having these terrible negative thoughts. And it not only made me miserable, but it made everything feel so much more difficult and treacherous. And this negative thinking carried on for about a month, until I reached a point where I was like, you know what? I'm not even enjoying life anymore. I have lost all interest in everything completely because I'd spiraled so much. And that's when I had the epiphany that, you know what? I'm just going to start loving the way that I am right now, and I'm still going to improve. And strangely, I'm now starting to see results, whereas before I wasn't, because I'm speaking so positively to myself. Some examples I can give to solidify this concept, right, is weight loss. Don't you think it's strange that when people say, treat yourself, you deserve it, they often associate that with having a piece of chocolate or eating cakes, sweets. But ironically, those things aren't actually an act of self-love. They're actually the opposite. Again, imagine if you're a plant. It would be like pouring bleach into the soil and thinking, oh, I'm treating my plant. It's poison. But then we're programmed to see stuff like exercise and eating healthy as some kind of form of self-punishment. And that is complete bullshit. But again, it's something that comes from the media and the system that we live in. If you want to love yourself and improve yourself at the same time, it's actually very easy when you remember the fact that you are not actually your body, right? You are inhabiting this body, but really you are a soul. But your body is yours. Really sit with that concept for a minute, because this is what shifts everything. If you see it that your body is yours and that it's your job to look after it, you will naturally be drawn towards doing things that will benefit your body. It's not about how you look. It's not about getting abs or being skinny or whatever. It's about you making choices that honour your body. When you separate the two, when you recognise that you're the soul inhabiting the body, you suddenly see a lot clearer. Some people use the concept of thinking from your higher self. What would your higher self do? Well, I believe that your higher self it is your soul. The body is the lower self. Say, for example, if you have a sugar addiction. No, tell you what, let's go with alcohol. Say, for example, you drink every single weekend. Your body has got used to drinking loads of alcohol. Some people notice that they actually start to experience withdrawals once they quit alcohol, or they try to. So they're trying to quit alcohol, suddenly their body starts craving it. Now, the mainstream self-love community and their mentality would be, oh, go on, treat yourself. Have a whiskey, have a wine, you deserve it. That's giving into the body and its desires. But your higher self is there, and it's like, no, this is just a withdrawal process. Once you get over that, if we can just push past those cravings and quit alcohol altogether, you will be healthier, you will be better, you'll feel better. That's the right decision. I feel like so many people who have low self-esteem have it because they know that they're letting themselves down. And there are so many ways that this can happen. If you're being bullied in school or in a workplace and you don't stand up for yourself, that is a form of letting yourself down, because you're showing yourself that you can't trust yourself. If you're people-pleasing or allowing someone to use you or take advantage of you, if you're agreeing to doing loads of things that you're not happy with, that you don't want to do, basically any time that we don't honour our integrity, we're lessening the bond that we have with ourself. We're almost disconnecting from ourselves. But nobody tells you this in school, and so many people live their lives by letting themselves down in nearly every action that they take. And if you're repeatedly letting yourself down, you will have negative self-talk because you're not listening to your higher self. You're giving in to the body's desires all the time. There is one occasion where I would actually say the negative self-talk has a place. And that is when you have that moment where you realise that a change needs to happen. And this can be an external thing or an internal thing. It's like you were plodding along in your comfort zone, everything was fine, and then, all of a sudden, you have this epiphany that something that you're doing right now needs to change. Now, because so many people identify as their body instead of their soul, they direct all of the hate towards themselves, which they shouldn't do. What you should instead do is hate the bad habit. Hate the bad action. It's not yourself that you hate, it's the action. It's the same as manifesting. You realise you don't like something and you make a decision in that moment, I want something different. Now, in order to change something, you need to change. Say, for example, you want to start doing cardio and you say to yourself, I'm going to do 20 minutes of cardio 3 times a week, and that's going to get me to my goal. Once you make that decision, it's now your job to show up for yourself. If you show up for yourself, there's no reason for the negative self-talk. But if you let yourself down, that's when you start feeling like you can't trust yourself. So this is why it's important that the actions that you're taking must always be loving towards yourself and realistic. Because if you set unrealistic goals and you don't show up for yourself because it's unattainable, you'll be constantly telling yourself that you can't trust yourself. I trust that this video helped. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing. And a special thank you to everyone who donates to this channel. Love you, bye.